If you talk to Arab American and Middle Eastern American voters around Detroit about President Trump's first few months in office, you'll get a range of responses.
Chaotic.
Dehumanizing.
Overwhelming.
Hopeful.
This area has historically voted Democratic, but it shifted allegiance in November. Why? Voting districts with large populations from the Middle East were angered by President Biden's loyalty to Israel. They said he abandoned Gaza. And that anger played out in November's election.
Trump was the only candidate that would say he would stop the war because Kamala Harris wouldn't even talk about it. It was more a protest vote from the Democratic Party. The community is now feeling the regret of casting a protest vote in support of Trump.
In his first months in office, Trump cracked down on immigration, tightened the border, cut regulations, imposed tariffs, and so far has failed to deliver on his promise to end the war in Gaza.
Under the Biden administration, we still have elected officials down the ballot speaking about the issues and pushing for change and calling for ceasefire, while under Trump administration, no one is pushing for change.
The war hasn't stopped. Immigration rights have been trampled on. Free speech issues have been trampled on. In so many words, we were lied to.
But Middle Eastern Americans aren't a monolithic group. Some are more conservative in their politics, prioritizing traditional social values, and economic ones too, like the Chaldean community across town. These Catholic Iraqis historically vote Republican, and they came out in large numbers to support Trump in his first term. That enthusiasm continued last year.
Many were initially concerned about the stock market, tariffs, how it's going to impact them. But we're also a community that's focused on faith and family. With the Trump administration, we are hopeful that we'll be able to at least get an ear from someone in the administration.
But fears of deportation linger in their minds after some Chaldeans were detained and sent back to Iraq in 2019 during Trump's first term.
There is a lot of concerns that perhaps Chaldeans will get deported back to Iraq. We had a similar situation during President Trump's first term. And unfortunately, one member of our community was deported and he eventually died in Iraq.
Arab Americans in Michigan have staged protests over the war in Gaza for over a year now, and they've continued with Trump in office. But there's fear of speaking out because charges were brought against some university students for trespassing and obstructing police during pro-Palestinian protests. Those charges were dropped last week, but the fear remains.
There's a big fear of backlash. There's a big fear of surveillance and of being silenced, or even their job being jeopardized. You also fear for their future, for their opportunities, whether in their education or their career.
These communities are closely watching as Trump travels this week to the Middle East, and they're also keeping tabs on what's happening here at home in Michigan, with the economy, with sweeping deportations, and with freedom of speech.